Okay. How are you? How are you doing? You know, I've been doing this good morning, good afternoon, good night. I don't really like it. I was okay with it at first, but it doesn't feel, I don't know. I don't mind the, like, outro. I feel that. I feel like that resonates with me. The, like, thank you for being here, thank you for being you. I feel that. I like that. But I don't like what I kind of started saying. So we're gonna workshop that. But I never say my name. My name is Jane. The thought behind the channel name was like, I was gonna capitalize the A, so it's like Jane SMR. I think that works better in my head than it does on paper. Jane SMR. I don't know. That was the idea, and then I literally never say my name. So anyway, I'm Jane. It's nice to meet you. I had something else I wanted to talk to you about tonight. I thought for tonight, I loved the way this sounded. So I thought we would play with this a lot more because you can do good gripping sounds also. And I thought I would do like hand sounds and fabric. And I'll do some sleeve pulling. I have like a scratch. I don't know what that is. Sleeve. Oh, is that the same? No, yeah, that's the same scratch. I saw this, I think it was like a tweet or something once, and it was like, women are like apples. They always have random bruises. As I was saying it, I was like, is there anything not okay about that? I remember when I first heard it, I laughed though, because I was like, I always have random bruises, and I'm like, I don't even know what that was from. And then you discover it in the shower, and you're like, no idea. Okay, what I want to talk to you about tonight is your communication style. So, I was reading this thing, and this is something that I'm actively working on. And, you know, generally the idea of this topic is sort of like, are you a passive communicator? And of course, a passive communicator that's going to be someone who is going to let people walk all over them. Sorry. You know, that's like I'm good with whatever kind of communicator. I'm flexible, whatever you want, whatever works. Passive communicator isn't always amazing at setting boundaries. And if they have any boundaries, they don't enforce them. So if someone does walk over your boundaries, you allow it, you forgive it, you excuse it away, and sort of like the defense mechanism, because I think the other thing that happens is human nature, we want to like explain away the things that we do, and we kind of want to defend the way that we are, right? And one of, I think, the biggest learnings and things we can work on is getting really curious about why we are the way we are and why we do the things that we do. And so, like, I think a passive communicator might be inclined to think like, well, you know, I make things easy. You know, I'm so easy because I'm so flexible. I'm so easy because I'm so easy to get along with. But at what cost? At what cost? Are you sacrificing? Are you constantly sacrificing your own needs, your own wants? I think you'll find a lot of passive, sort of like the people pleaser type. I'm what I like to call a recovering people pleaser. So that's why I say, like, when I want to talk to you about it, in many ways I'm still working on it. In my old work, I would say stuff and my boss would be like, Jane, that is your pleaser talking, your instinct to keep people happy, and it's something that I'm definitely actively working on, but trying to establish boundaries and stick to them and really understand that being passive, being a people pleaser, in the long term, it doesn't serve you, and you're like giving so much space to other people's experiences that you lose sight of your own experience until it's too late, until you reach a breaking point or something becomes a lot more upsetting, or something explodes. It becomes a lot bigger than it ever needed to be if you had learned to address your needs in a fair way as well. What else? Okay, so that's sort of like people-pleasing, passive communication type. We're going to talk about each of them, and then I have a homework assignment for you. So, the next type is an aggressive communicator. So, as you might assume, an aggressive communicator is someone who just kind of stomps on other people. It's like their way or the highway. An aggressive communicator is someone who just kind of expects other people to do what they want and when they want. And an aggressive communicator may not even be aware, that they're doing it. Let's see if that's too loud. I hope it's not too bad. I feel like it hasn't been too bad, those when I hit the mic by accident. An aggressive communicator often doesn't necessarily know they're doing it. They're just so used to communicating in that way, sort of like bulldozing. And the sort of, I think, defense mechanism that they might fall into is the idea of like, well, I get stuff done. I make stuff happen, I'm good at making decisions, and if everyone else is wishy-washy, I steer things in the direction they need so that stuff gets done. I make the plans, I pick the place, I do the thing. And so that might feel like, oh, well, you need this personality because otherwise nothing would ever get done. So that's sort of the aggressive personality. I feel like I had so much more to say about the passive one because that's what resonates with me that I'm trying to work through. Okay. And then the ideal, what we should all strive for, is an assertive communicator. An assertive communicator. So, an assertive communicator is someone who is able to listen and hear what someone else's needs and wants are, but also can respect and communicate their own needs, their own boundaries. Someone who has no issue establishing and maintaining boundaries. Someone who is able to consider both parties, consider the needs of everyone involved, understands that no is a complete sentence, someone who has almost like the courage, the bravery to stand up for yourself, really, in a way that is kind and still leaves space for other people to engage in a conversation. So I think what this looks like is, okay, here's like a simple example. Let's say the situation is picking a place to eat for dinner. Very simple, straightforward, right? So in this example, the passive person is like, whatever you want, whatever you're in the mood for, whatever you want, I'm good with. Knowing full well, like, this is a little extreme, but like, let's say knowing full well they are allergic to a bunch of stuff and they just went out to eat at a bunch of places recently, and so it's like, ideally they would like to go to a couple of places, but they want to be accommodating. So that's like the passive person, right? And then how does that shake out? Like, if the other person doesn't magically pick the exact thing that they had in mind, in this hypothetical, that passive person is going to a dinner somewhere where, like, either there's not a lot they can eat if they have dietary restrictions, or they just went to eat there within the same week, that kind of thing. And let's say how does that serve you? It doesn't, that doesn't serve you. So then, let's say with an aggressive person, with an aggressive personality type, let's say they're like, let's go here tonight to eat, and they just expect the other person to accommodate that, right? And while in the moment you might feel like, oh, great, we picked a place, it's done, it's over, we know what we're doing, you're not giving them space to have an opinion in this decision, and sort of by like steamrolling, or let's say they did say something, what if we go here tonight, and you're like, no, let's just do this. It's like you're creating an experience where they're not likely to want to voice an opinion because you've shut them down in a way that doesn't make them feel considered at all, right? So what is the other option, right? What does the assertive communicator do? Well, that might look something like, I just went to eat at this place, so I don't want to go there because I just went there, but what if we go to this place, and then the place that they chose that you just went to, we'll go there next week. How's that? So it's something like that is considering both parties. It is actively hearing what the other party wanted, what their needs are, but also respecting your own needs, wishes, wants, boundaries when appropriate. So that's a very rough example, but that's kind of the breakdown of passive communication, aggressive communication, and assertive communication, which is always the goal. And so your homework is to think about what kind of communicator you are. Like, do you feel like you're a little bit passive? If you're a little bit passive, I think the first step is understanding that you're passive and getting really clear on why that's not helpful for you, because I think that's the first step to improving your communication style. If you're really clear on the fact that being passive is not setting you up for success in your relationships, and I mean all, professional, personal, in all relationships. If you are just being passive, you're not setting yourself up for a healthy relationship. You're setting yourself up to be disgruntled, resentful, disappointed, and does that seem fun or fair to you? So I think that's really the first step. It's like, if you tend to be more of a passive person, the very first step is just recognize it. Recognize it and get really clear on how it continues to be a disservice to you in your life. Like, actively think about times where you have been passive and how that has bred resentment, how that has not turned out positively or very healthy for you. And then with an aggressive communicator, if you can be introspective and think to yourself and you're like, you know what, I think maybe I have an aggressive communication style, then like try to take a good, hard, introspective look at yourself and try to think about how that may have affected your relationships. Maybe you've gotten that feedback before, Is there a situation or a time, a specific situation, or maybe an individual that you can think of where you maybe were a little bit more of an aggressive communicator than would have been appropriate for that situation, for that scenario? Try to think about situations where it didn't turn out, again, to be like the healthiest scenario for you, and how your piece of it, how you may have played a role in how that turned out, and how if you had done things a little bit differently, if you had communicated in a little bit more of an open manner, how things may have been different. And then finally, if you are an assertive communicator, you just keep doing you. That's amazing. But I think sometimes maybe we all fall somewhere in the middle too, I think you can be different with different relationships, maybe different types of friendships. But so it's the kind of thing where like all of us are a work in progress. Every single one of us is a work in progress, but the more we talk about it, the more we can become conscious of it, and the more we can strive to improve and become the versions of ourselves that we want to be, So, think about the little things you can do to become a more assertive communicator that holds space and welcomes both experiences, multiple opinions and ideas. Oh, I forgot. Okay. So that is my rambly chat that I wanted to have with you about communication styles and how we can all strive to be more assertive communicators. A little bit of fabric sounds. A little bit of sleeve pulling. love. I think I will be doing this more. Okay. That's it. That's what we got for tonight. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful sleep, nap, whatever you are doing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being you.